My name's Nicki Hyde-Boughey. I am the head teacher of Claremont High School, and I'm also the executive head teacher of Chrysalis Multi-AcademyTrust. It's quite a small trust. We're based in northwest London, in the London Borough of Brent. We are a large secondary of 1,600 and a large primary of 930, so sort of 2,500 students in our trust. Claremont has been part of the Challenge Partners network since its inception in sort of 2010, 2011. And for the last 2 years, Chrysalis has also been running a hub for Northwest London schools, which I'll talk a bit more about later on. But the slide here on the screen at the moment is very much about the quality assurance review that Kate has just talked us through. And as the head teacher of the school, it is a fantastic opportunity to really review your processes and everything that you do within your school. But it's done in such a collaborative manner. You have the external reviewers come in from the other schools, and it's very much about working as two halves of a team. Kate's talked about how everything's done in a joint way, which is a fantastic piece of CPD for the senior team, but also for middle leaders as well. And certainly the middle leaders at my school have often commented how much they have valued the opportunity to work with external reviewers and to get an external sense on potentially their department or an area of the school that they lead. It's very much putting a mirror up. It's very much an opportunity to reflect and an opportunity to make sure you're match fit. It really is a great way to sit down and look at how you construct your improvement plan, how you feed into that, a really good look at your curriculum, and certainly within the new framework, the Ofsted framework, is a great chance to look at how robust and rigorous your curriculum is and how it's broad and balanced in a very safe environment. It's great to be able to celebrate your what went wells, and certainly the way it works, you'll give your team of reviewers perhaps your conference room. They will stick post-it notes all around the room of all the what went wells that they're seeing during the course of the review. And that is just a great thing to be able to do once the review's over. Put it in your staff room, and your staff can see all these amazing things that have been going on in your school, which is just brilliant. With the even better ifs, you sit down with the review team and you agree the wording and what you specifically want in there as well. The way I use it in my school and in our trust, we use the EBIs to then form the basis of the school improvement plans going forward for the following academic year. It's almost like an annual ritual. It's on our calendar every year. Our staff expect it. They know what it's all about, the more experienced staff, and people use it as an opportunity to showcase. So, sort of a few weeks before the review takes place, people will be coming to me going, I'd really like Challenge Partners to see this. I'd really like them to see that. It really showcases this bit of work that we do in school. So it really encourages staff to come forward and showcase some of the fantastic things that perhaps they're doing. Area of excellence, you don't have to put one of those forward, and certainly in my experience in our hub, schools that do the quality assurance review for the first time don't always tend to, but we've put forward areas of staff development that have been accredited, narrowing the gap for pupil premium, and again it's just a great way to really dive down very deep into a particular area of your school and understand it and unpick it, and again potentially look at ways to develop it further. From the peer review side of things, it's great to go into other schools. So as a senior leader yourself, you and some of your team get the opportunity to go to another school. And that is so valuable, to spend 3 days under the skin, as Kate's saying, of another school. People take away so many ideas and they really do come back buzzing. I've noticed in my team, even the deputies and the assistant heads that perhaps go to schools that are very different to ours, they will come back going, oh, it's great, they're doing this brilliant thing, I've brought this document back. And it's so powerful for them to just go out and see how other schools operate. And for any of you that are perhaps in a trust, and I've got senior roles within a trust as well, one of the recent things that Challenge Partners have introduced in the last couple of years is also trust peer review training. So they're sort of rolling this up to a trust level as well. So that can be incredibly beneficial too. So that's my sort of little overview there on the value of the QAR. I find it incredibly beneficial as a head teacher. It's a great way to take a snapshot of your school and to look at how you can develop going forward. Claremont's been a Challenge Partners school since 2010, but actually my MAT, we formed a hub, a Challenge Partners hub. So the 2 schools that are in my trust are part of the hub, but we also have another 11 schools as well that are very local schools. So it's great from a travel point of view, so they can, they can pop in when they need to. We basically have hub meetings once a half term. We tend to do them as breakfast meetings, sort of an 8 till 10 slot. People come and descend on us, we feed them, and we often get guest speakers in as well. And I think the schools in our hub say that they value being part of the hub as much as the whole central organisation and the quality assurance review side of it. As a hub, we started off with 6 schools in year 1. It was 2 secondaries and 4 primaries. As I mentioned before, we're in North London, so the schools are quite large. So despite only being 6 schools, we did have an awful lot of students we represented. We managed to more than double that in year 2 into 13 schools. We got an extra couple of secondaries on board, which was fantastic, and some more primaries. And we did an introductory event literally the week before schools closed on the 13th of March, where again we're looking at another couple of secondaries and some more primaries. Myself and my hub manager, we're keen not to get the hub too large, because we don't feel we'll be able to offer the personalised approach. And certainly when we start to get to maybe 15, 17 schools, I think we might be trying to sort of cap it there. We do an awful lot of work with other schools, as I've mentioned, supporting them and sharing ideas. And also during the COVID-19 crisis, we've done a lot of work trying to support them virtually. We've got our first virtual hub meeting next Tuesday. We've been sharing documents with them and ideas and etc. I found one of the things being a hub particularly good for is it's a fantastic opportunity for maybe a deputy head or an assistant head to lead something very special, and it's a great opportunity for development for them. And I gave this very important role to my acting deputy. Kate knows her very well, and it's been a fantastic way for her to develop her career. She's quite young, so for her, a step into headship at the minute is probably not quite where she wants to go. But this has been a fantastic chance for her to work with other schools, support them, and she genuinely cares about the other schools. She's been absolutely superb. So it's been a fantastic chance for her as well. And also other staff within the senior team who've been involved in different ways. Being a senior partner, from my point of view, again, is fantastic. You have access to the conferences, which are held regularly through the year. Some fantastic speakers that we've heard, and some great opportunities as well there. And I'll talk a bit more about one of those later on. One of the things we do within our hub is we run the Outstanding Teacher Programme. So one of the first things we did when we created the hub, when we got our hub funding, was we used some of that money to train 2 Claremont outstanding practitioners to lead the Allevi Outstanding Teacher Programme. It's quite a chunk of time out of school for them, but we made the provision we needed to do that. So now we've got 2 individuals that are qualified to lead that programme. So we run that programme 3 times a year in each term, 15 candidates each time, and our hub schools rotate round and they take a place. As the lead school, I make sure there's always 3 members of staff from Claremont in there, but then everybody else gets at least 1 turn a year to send 3 staff. Which is fantastic for building capital within your teaching and learning and developing that further. So from my point of view as head teacher at Claremont, I'm starting to build a real chunk of my staff now that have been through the Outstanding Teacher Programme. And if you know anything about the programme, it is really superb, really high quality. So that's just a great way to develop teaching and learning in itself within my own school as well as within the hub. We have made use of the Behaviour Insights team, which, again, Challenge Partners Central team have used them sometimes to present at the conferences. We've had them in school to talk for a couple of hours to the hub, and actually we're going to use them next week for our virtual meeting as well. We've engaged with Ambition Institute, again, a national organisation, to lead a middle leaders programme within the hub. So part of our action plan this year was very much to develop middle leaders and to get them a bit more leadership ready, certainly in terms of the new Ofsted framework. So we approached Ambition Institute, and they have created a bespoke programme for the middle leaders in our hub. Each school was able to send three individuals, and I think we did it at a very cheap rate. I think we only charged them about £50 per delegate. That's still running at the moment, so that's been a fantastic opportunity. We've had some high profile speakers in, like Natalie Packham. She came in and did a session for us on SEND. We've had some people in to do PSHE workshops. So we take our action plan as a hub from the start of the year. We look at what everyone's needs are. The hub manager pulls the action plan together, and then during the course of the year, she tries to get people into school to address some of those actions. We are involved in the Challenge Partners Leadership Residency. We've done lots of shared visits, and we've also done some PP reviews within the hub. So the hub is a real hub of activity. It's really lively. We try to encourage at least the same person to attend the hub meetings each time, but to bring somebody else with them depending on what the topic is. So, you know, different people kind of pop in and out to try and share the knowledge in that way. Certainly, again, from my perspective as head teacher at Claremont, I've used the hub as a way to get lots of extra training into Claremont. So, for instance, we ran some level 3 child protection training through the hub funding. Hub schools all sent a couple of individuals. I was able to put 3 or 4 extra individuals in there. We've done suicide awareness training. We've done dealing with difficult parents. And as I've already mentioned, the OTP. So if our school within our hub suggests they'd like some training on this, we try to get it in if we can with the hub funding, and then I can put extra staff in there as well. So it works out really, really well. It's a win-win situation. We've hosted some of the leadership development days that Kate has mentioned. Again, that's a great way of getting extra people into your school. It's a great opportunity for your staff to be leading and you know, doing some training on areas that they're, you know, specific to, which is fantastic. And as a school, we've recently achieved the IQM, the Inclusion Quality Mark. So again, we're able to do some more outward-facing work as a result of that, and work with other schools in the hub to support inclusion across the hub. Okay, I'll hand back to Kate. Thank you.
Before that, Nikki, we've got a couple of questions in the chat. So if I could just take them in turn. Esther Cook, first of all. If you could unmute yourself, Esther.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just really interested, Nikki, in how similar your work is to the work perhaps of the wider teaching school networks. And I wondered if you were a teaching school or whether you work with a teaching school to kind of give a joint up offer for schools in your area.
Okay, thanks, Esther. We're not actually a teaching school. We do work with a local teaching school a little bit, but to be honest, it's not that interlinked with the Challenge Partners. So no, I mean, I'm not hugely familiar with the work of the teaching schools, but yes, we're not a teaching school, in answer to your question. Thanks very much.
I'll just come in on that one, Esther, because we do have a number of hubs across the network that are also teaching schools. And in fact, my predecessor, Professor Sir George Berwick, who founded Challenge Partners, was also one of the instigators of the teaching school programme. So the two were designed very much to fit together, and actually that link that Nikki talked about with the Levy and the Outstanding Teacher programme is also part of that kind of same approach of it all working together to support school improvement through improvements to teaching and learning through Challenge Partners, teaching schools, a Levy, all being joined up. So we've got many different examples that we could kind of point you to and connect you with if you wanted to talk to other teaching schools about how they work with Challenge Partners. We could certainly do that.
Thanks, that's really helpful. Thank you.
And the next question is from Tamar Dennis, please. Oh, okay. Well, you've kindly put it in the chat. You've asked how, to Nikki, how is your Outstanding Teacher programme validated? So externally or otherwise?
Okay, thank you. It's validated by a Levy. So the individuals from Claremont that we trained up are accredited validators, if you like. So when the 15 people do their cohort, they do all of their sessions, they tick everything off, they do everything they need to. My 2 people are able to validate that, and they're able to give them a certificate at the end because they've gone through all the necessary training. We also have to have an annual quality assurance visit from a Levy to make sure that we are running the programme correctly in the way that it's supposed to be run.
Great. So I hope that answers your question, Tamar. And could I then come to Neve McGuinness? And maybe Kate, you could respond, given that Neve's question's the wider network. But Neve, if you're able to unmute yourself.
Good morning. Hi, Nikki, hi, Kate. Nikki, or Kate, I was just wondering, is Nikki's model where there's a lot of support for middle leaders, is that widespread? Because I'm in my role now 6 months, and I feel that the curriculum leaders in my school need the development and need that broader network. They need to look beyond our school, and that's the area I'd like to develop them in. I'm not a big fan of the MPQML as such. I was the lead of a teaching school. I just feel that these kind of networks are far more transformative for them.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of work going on with middle leaders across our different hubs. So, for example, one of the things that we'll be piloting next year with a hub based in Bristol and another one hopefully in Herts and Bucks is around piloting a middle leaders quality assurance review, which takes the model that I've talked about, but has a one-day focus on a particular department. So it gets middle leaders working together to review each other's departments from across different schools. So that's one particular thing. I know that in other hubs they have arrangements so that middle leaders can shadow quality assurance reviews that are happening, and very often when those quality assurance reviews are happening in your own school, you can involve middle leaders in a way that's developmental for them. I think the other thing is that through the hub action plans, now Nicki touched on this, a proportion of the subscription fees that schools pay to challenge partners are returned to the hubs to enable them to work together on common actions and collaborate. And quite often those action plans will include opportunities for middle leaders, you know, phase leaders, subject leaders to work together to develop either kind of collectively, just generally in their leadership development, or on specific things for the phases or subjects that they're leading. So that will quite often be part of an action plan as well. So although there's not a central program at the moment for middle leaders, but we're always kind of innovating and piloting something, and we are piloting that middle leaders program. There are a range of different ways that middle leaders are involved across different hubs. Nicki, I don't know if you want to add any more to that.
Yeah, I mean, really, for us, it's been a bit more informal. So we've sort of decided that, you know, there's a particular issue in maths in secondary, for instance. So maybe we've set up an opportunity for the maths leads to get together. We might do business managers. That's something I know that lots of business managers in schools feel quite isolated. So we might, you know, use that as an opportunity to get people together. It's been a bit more informal than anything specific, apart from what we mentioned with the Ambition Institute programme, which was very, very bespoke. But I think, you know, it would be very much dependent on hub needs and what the action plan was and what people wanted to do, you know, because at the end of the day, you can, you know, the sky's the limit in a sense. You can do what you like in terms of setting that up, but involving middle leaders as much as possible, which is something I've done, has been very effective, because then they feel involved in the whole thing and it's not just this thing that senior leaders do. So yes, we use the opportunity of shadowing. So when we have the quality assurance review, middle leaders will shadow a senior leader and the reviewer from the central team to go around, and they've all said what a fantastic experience that's been. So it needs to be that the school community feels part of Challenge Partners, not just the handful of people that attend the meetings. So I'm quite conscious, and myself and my hub manager, we share a lot with the whole school what's going on and what we've been doing, so that people feel part of it.
That's great, thank you very much.
Nicki, this just makes me think it might be helpful if you could just say a little bit more about the process of putting together a hub action plan. You know, how do you work with the other schools in the hub to identify priorities and the actions that you're going to take in response to those priorities, and maybe give some examples of some of the things that you have focused on as a hub and how hub funding has enabled you to make progress on those.
Yes, no problem, Kate. So what we tend to do, we will have a meeting usually in June, and the June meeting, we ask schools to bring along their improvement plans for the year that they're in and the sort of bones of next year's improvement plan. So we sort of sit down, we write the improvement plan from the previous year and the action plans to see how well people feel we've achieved that. And then we'll sit down and start to draw up some priorities. We tend to separate the cohorts into secondary and primary within our hub. That just seems to work quite well. and then we just do some initial planning around what people's targets are. Now, obviously, given the COVID crisis this year, I think that some of the things we had identified in this year's action plan may well roll forward into next year's action plan. And then really it's my hub manager, Alice, who then draws it all up into a greater document and identifies maybe 6 key actions with maybe some sub-actions and how we're going to measure the success of that, and starts to put in some ideas. So sorts of things we've had in our plans in the last few years. I've mentioned the middle leaders, training and developing them. RSE and PSHE, given all the statutory guidance that's coming out for September. Schools were very nervous about that, so certainly we've done quite a lot of work there, and I mentioned we've got a presenter in to support schools there. We have done lots of work on disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged students, trying to narrow the gap, and again, Alice, my hub manager's led on some of that. Talk for writing for our primary colleagues, trying to drive the Key Stage 2 writing scores. Again, they've done some work there. And we also organised some visits for our primary colleagues where they went into each of the schools and had a look at certain things that was linked to the action plan. The action plan is very much driven by what the leaders at the meeting, are worried about, what they want to try to develop in the coming year. Mental health in schools, that's been a big issue, which is partly why we ended up with some of the suicide awareness training, and certainly the dealing with difficult parents. So we try to focus on what schools want to look at and then try and pull it together into the action plan. We were part of the Growing the Top programme from September 2018 until June 2019. We were invited to take part as an outstanding school. We didn't know very much about the programme because it was one of the first years they did the programme. We were put into a trio with 2 other schools, St Clement Danes and Baylis Court. They are not Brent schools, but they weren't a million miles from where we are, sort of a 30-minute drive. So it was sort of fine from a visit point of view. We started off, we went to the first conference, and Kate mentioned the Nando's lady, who was absolutely phenomenal. All the conferences as part of the Growing the Top programme, again, were really high quality. It was lovely to hear other people speak from industry and from different sectors of education. So real food for thought, the conferences. We then participated in our visits. So each school in the trio hosted a day's visit, and each school, it was the head teacher and a deputy head. So there's 6 of us, and we got to know each other incredibly well from the conferences and also from the visits. And I honestly can say that it was the best piece of professional development as a head teacher I have done. As an outstanding school for a number of years, we work very hard with other schools, and we support lots of other schools as part of our hub and as part of other work that we do. But to go into other outstanding schools was just phenomenal, to just go and see, spend the day and really get under the skin. And everybody was very transparent. We were very honest with each other. We got on incredibly well together, actually, which was fantastic. But we worked really hard to set up some really high quality days for each other when we went into each other's schools. We shared 2 pieces of systemic excellence. So middle leaders came in and talked through things, pupils were involved, different people were involved. And then we also shared challenges. And then others gave us feedback on those challenges. So we left each other's schools absolutely buzzing with loads of ideas. It was a great opportunity to have a tour of another school and just have a bit of a nosy around, to be honest. We were taking bits of paper all day and ideas and saying, oh, can you email me that? So it was absolutely fantastic. In terms of once the programme had finished, I feel like now I've got a real solid network of support from those 2 schools. And I know we've done quite a few follow-up visits. So I sent my person who's in charge of inclusion and PP to one of the other schools that had managed to successfully narrow their gap. So she went, she visited, she took some ideas, she brought them back to Claremont. She made them work in our school, and I can say that when we had our results last year in August 2019, we had managed to close our gap, which was fantastic, between our DA and our non-DA. So that was a really key result of the programme. I think one of the other things that we took specifically from the programme were some really robust processes that one of the other schools had for Key Stage 5, and how they monitor their A-level students with an alert programme. And we used a lot of what they were doing and made it work in our context. And again, I feel that's had some real key benefits back in school. So the Growing the Top program is just brilliant. And I've said to other schools, you know, if you get invited to join it, do it. It was such a fantastic way to spend time in another school. And I just remember the first visit we did, which was to St Clement Danes, myself and my deputy left the school, and we just stood on the car park afterwards and we're just buzzing with what we had seen, you know, and what we could implement back at our own school and how they did different things. It was superb. Everyone was very open and honest and very giving with their time. So we were very clear that, you know, we weren't going to be checking emails during the day. We were just going to really focus and be mindful of what we were doing as a team. So it was absolutely superb. And as I say, definitely the best piece of CPD as a head teacher that I've done. So thank you, Challenge Partners, for organising that. It was brilliant.